Well, greetings. I'm getting a little tired, so I just want to make a point. My thoughts on this is people that have something, even if it's just online, a few people, you have something, some kind of assembly, body, not distinct, separate, like from, but the true church, the true assembly, body. You have something, I would just emphasize on don't divide over don't just divide right away. If there's something a little bit, back off on some of the minor things and just don't instantly divide, you know what I'm saying? But if there is like a major doctrine or truth or something someone thinks is foundational, and don't like with anybody else, it's not just for me, anybody else, don't just like dump them and oh, he's false just automatically. I would do everything you can first to try to solve any kind of issue or problem or anything. But the issue is that both sides need to look to our Creator for truth and just both be unbiased about all things concerning maybe something that's being discussed or some kind of truth, not to be like biased, but to seek the answer first from our Creator. That's what they did in Acts. You can read it. That's what they did. They just backed off and said, let's see what the Spirit tells us. And so somebody brought it up, Peter, Paul, somebody, and other people were around there, and someone must have brought it up first, unless they all talked at the same time and said the same thing. And then it seemed good to everyone, like the Spirit was going, I like that. That sounds good. It sounds like that's the truth. That's what we should do. How come people don't believe that that could be done today? How come people don't believe that could be done today? Like if there's something you think is off or you're in like a big foundational disagreement, bring it up, the scriptures to back your point, and then we just see what the Father says, just see what our Creator says and leads to any issue, any problem, any teaching. You know what I'm saying? That's why aren't people focusing on that first? Why do they just divide right away? I know there's a lot of times there's just absolute heresy, right? And people go away from that. There's nothing we can do about it. You just have to be separate from certain people and groups. Like, not that you can't talk to them or just be a friend and, not an enemy, not to hate them, not to hate your enemy, but you're not one with them. See, you're not joined as one, as equal, spiritually one with people that are totally off base about something. Then that's a problem. But if it's something like really small and it's not gonna affect the way you live or something, and truth, foundational truths, why would someone divide over a small thing? But there should be some main things, foundational doctrines that everyone agrees on. And if it is something major off, it should be discussed, and let's see what the scriptures say, what the Spirit says. Let's see if there is an answer using scriptures or through the Spirit telling us truth. Knowing, just you can come to agreement like they did back then, and they just all said, yep, this seemed good to us. It seemed good to us what the Spirit said, the Holy Spirit, the Father, and in the Messiah, in them, telling them, giving them an answer, so that they can come in agreement and move along. No big deal. Sometimes people need a little slapping, a little correction. It doesn't mean that they're just false right away, but they're just a little off somewhere, and they just need to snap out of it and just be corrected on maybe a certain thing, teaching. But you know, I suppose people make the smaller things foundational. I don't know that you should do that. Make the really small things foundational, you know, something that's not, maybe the scriptures aren't super clear on, or prophecy or something that we see a little different, like we're just not seeing it clearly yet. Smaller things that don't affect how you live, who that person is. It doesn't say that he's a false believer or something automatically. Like something foundational to me would be, well, obviously believe in the Messiah. You know, don't believe in the Messiah, that's like, you know, it's foundational. Certain aspects of the gospel is foundational, I think. You know, the oneness, the unity in Messiah, Jew and Gentile, Hebrew, Gentile, okay, one, that's foundational. If someone's separating and teaching something different, man, that's a huge error. That's a huge problem. It's a big lie, and it's totally against what the Father is teaching. The scriptures are saying what they did, what the apostles and disciples did, that the Father had them do and teach, and now they build up a wall again. That's not good. That's a huge problem. You know, things like the Trinity, that's strictly not opinion. That's commandments, foundational. You shall have no other Elohims, no other mighty ones, no other gods than him. No other. There's only one Elohim, a true creator. That's foundational to me too, you know, no Trinity. It's a golden calf. It's an idol. It's a false god. It's paganism worship. That's going to be a problem. It's going to be spiritually divided in so many different ways in living and everything. Because the Trinitarian people, you know, if they maintain that, some come out, you know, few come out, but if you don't come out and you maintain this evil teaching totally against the scriptures and his word and truth, then, you know, they're not, the Father's not in them. You can't believe in a false pagan deity. And like I said, those that just didn't know anything else, that's just what they believe because they didn't even hear anything else, and they're sort of ignorant, and they're coming to truth, but they're, you know, I'm not talking about those people, but people that just don't want to, they just keep pushing it, you know, as truth, and they know that that's what they're doing. They keep teaching it. I'm talking about those people that just will not look into it, will not pray about it, will not seek the Father for truth on it. But see, another problem is that they wouldn't ever admit that that's what they're lacking of doing. I could say that that's what's lacking in somebody's life, but are they going to admit it? Are they humble enough to even admit that that's what they lack? That they're literally lacking seeking truth from the heart, from our Creator, and believing whatever he tells them, you know, his people. Spirit will just tell you. You'll just know once you see it truth. You see it in scripture. He tells you, and now you know it's foundational. It's solid as rock. It's a truth that doesn't waver, not tossed by every wind of doctrine, you know. You're firm in these things. But it's deceptive because people are firm in wrong teachings. So they could use the same scriptures and say, yeah, we don't Trinity, you know, we don't move from our foundational. So it's deceptive. But I'm telling you, there is something that is distinguished between the false believers and true. The false ones don't pray and ask the Father for truth. They just don't do it. They just don't do it. They don't do it. Those that are going to come out of that lie will do that. They'll ask. He'll give. They'll ask more, and he'll give and show you the truth on it. Give you the spiritual understanding of certain things. But where people lack this spiritual teaching and understanding that's given from above, they take it carnally and they come up with man-made traditions and false interpretation and false beliefs and false deities and false doctrine of demons, because it's proof that they don't have that spiritual understanding. They're lacking that knowledge, and that's a bad thing. It's not everything, but it is important. Knowing him is important. They don't know him. My people perish for a lack of knowledge. So no one's going to tell me that knowledge isn't important. You see what I'm saying? You give a scripture, it's done, it's over. Well, you don't like that scripture, that my people perish for a lack of knowledge? And as soon as someone starts contradicting you on something so simple and basic, and is resisting with tears and trying to use some kind of thing, and then you got a scripture right away and say, you know, they try to pound you for like, oh, knowledge, you're just all about knowledge. You know, it's a false accusation, and then you give them, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. And they get angry and they don't want to listen, and they just keep saying the same thing. They're hardened. Be careful with those people. You know, somebody that could see, that's seeking truth, but they could be a little ignorant or something about something, and then you tell them and they go, oh, wow, yeah, that makes sense. That's a good point. It's speaking to my spirit. I just didn't see it until now, you know. So they learn something because they're receptive and seeking truth from the Father. So they don't just automatically turn a blind eye and say, nope, 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 and won't even look into anything or seek truth on it. Because that's the sign of a true believer. A wise man will consider a matter and listen and at least search it out to see if it's true directly by prayer and asking, and searching the scriptures too. Both, you know, both. Because without him, you could read the scriptures and not come to the understanding you need to come to. And not come to the understanding you need to come to on even sin. You could be blinded in what your sins are too. Very blinded. To the point where you just don't acknowledge that you sin, right? 14 minutes already, man. I'll try to wrap it up. Yeah, so when someone gets to the point where they can't acknowledge or see their own sins, you know, they're not hearing anything anymore, or haven't. Seeing, not hearing, not hearing, not seeing. So I just wish people would take it up to the Father and just pray about it. That's all. Like on any matter, anything, small or big, but just don't divide right away. Unless it's absolutely, totally heretical and foundational and you know it, you know. But if it's something small, why divide over it? But if you think it's foundational, then why can't believers just take it up to the Father and see what the Spirit really says? That's what I would like to do. Well, I do that. That's the only thing I rely on. I can't rely fully 100% on anything else. Other people that speak, teach things, or just whatever they're saying, talking, could be very beneficial, but even what they say has to really be confirmed in your heart, your spirit, the word, scriptures. But if people focused on this, what I'm saying right now, there wouldn't be so many divisions. And then they wouldn't have so much power. And I know that's not we're not going to run the world right now and take over, but I don't know exactly how it's all going to come to be. I do believe there will be believers that they've gone back to the truth. It's like the true Reformation. So there is some kind of order being restored at the last days, but I don't think it's going to be, I don't know, that conquer the whole world's going to come to belief, and then the Messiah comes and the whole world's full of truth and belief. I don't want to be pessimistic. I just don't see that prophecy anywhere. A certain amount of people waking up to the truth, yeah, but then before 70 AD collapse, they had a falling away though. So whatever stage of reformation, awakening to his truth and living it, whatever that is, wherever that peaks in this world, there's going to be a falling away of that, I think, because that's the pattern that happened before the last, the end of the age, the previous age. That was a big turning point, because the end of Jerusalem and their temple and nation completely crumbling, that was a major event, and it was the end of an age. But there's also going to be an end to this specific long age, That's where a lot of people don't clarify on last days and stuff, that the age did end back then, but there's going to be another age. And, if I can say this, new covenant age, sort of like, old covenant age, it's going to end, I believe, in the same pattern that the old covenant age, the Moses to, and then before Moses would have been, I don't know what I would call that, definitely a distinct different age. Not that the Father changed, but it wasn't, he didn't build a nation. I didn't see that before Moses. He had his people, but it wasn't a nation officially. I don't see that anywhere. And here's the commandments, I believe they had these commandments. Most of them are gotta be the same, I would believe, because Abraham kept the commandments, it says, and laws and charge, his statutes, and that was before Moses. That's an interesting area that I'm sort of seeking truth on here and there, just to learn more about it. If something revealing comes to me on what the purpose is, what the type is, what is it showing, when I have new ideas that I feel like they're given to me to think about, then I ask, and then I just, I don't force it. I just wait. It could take months before revelation on what that age signifies, or any importance, or its meaning, the purpose of it, Melchizedek, things like this. That priest, that high priest, that was definitely a type of Messiah. That's an interesting little study too, because in Hebrews it says, Messiah didn't come from the Levitical priesthood genealogy, which genealogy consists of parents, mother and father, having kids. This is very basic on a basic level. So mother and father, a line, you could trace it if you keep track, and I know that's what they did before, because that was all very important. Blessings, the lineage, keeping track of the family tree, and I'm not saying it has no importance now. It's just that to me, they obviously did that, most of them, if not all. They knew where they came from and things like this. And the names all had meaning for pretty much, they named them a certain name, sometimes the kids, for a revelation or prophecy that would become. It's the Father gives it. It's like they just made it up all in themselves, It's just given to them to, well, I'm Jeremiah, and sure enough, then he's lives up to the name and has a part in the kingdom at the time, not the kingdom of heaven, but not, it is the kingdom of heaven, but that wasn't really preached until Messiah came, and he preached the higher thing. I'm seeing this so much clearer now than before. There's things that you can't see until he opens up your mind to see it. There is a distinct difference from the point of Messiah forward, and it's very much spiritual. Very much has to do with spiritual understanding of the commandments. Not just living them physically, but spiritually, primarily first. And then if you do that, you will never break them physically. So that's why it's such a high calling. Not that it wasn't high calling before, but I just don't see anyone as spiritual like Messiah. Like spiritual, sure, but not the same degree, if I can say that, and I don't feel like I'm a heretic for saying that at all, because I believe there's something did happen. There was the kingdom of heaven is heavenly, it's high, and that was compared to the kingdom of heaven carnal, and it was for a purpose, and it was good for what it was intended for, just like the serpent was called very good ultimately for his purpose. He created it on day 6, and then at the end of creation he says all things are very good. It's not that evil is good, it's just that the knowledge of good and evil, which had evil right on the tree, and he says this is all very good, all of it. It's all creation, and it was good, and it was perfect, not cursed yet, but there were some evil things already in it. The evil in the tree, the knowledge of it, and which I take literally. I know people in this world, they have a problem with that. I don't think too many Christians have a problem with that. Maybe some do, because that's literally how he works. He gives you a physical picture, and without that, when you throw away that, it's no longer a metaphor for spiritual truth or parable. It's no longer that if you throw away the physical thing. There's a connection, and both are important, but the spiritual thing is the high thing, the heart, the mind, and that's what the kingdom of heaven is about. And if people taught this, it could be, so much different. They can understand and then use the Old Testament scriptures as authority for all truth, for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, through faith, like we read, through faith. Without the faith, it's a given. Let's say you're an atheist and you're reading the Bible, you're just not going to have the truth. He won't give it to you. You can know some carnal things. You won't see these things on a spiritual level and be able to live it. That has to be given. That's what I mean by people can read the Bible and not understand hardly anything, is because of that reason, the spiritual reason. And we are that bad. It's hard to believe. That's how bad we are. It really is just that. That's how low we are, and that's how high he is. He literally needs to teach us all these things. We just don't see it or know it. It's hard to believe that we could be that blind to his truth. All these technologies, and some people are very worldly smart and stuff like this, and then it comes to his truth and they just are blind. No understanding. They can talk about metaphors at work, presentations, be poetic, but then it comes to parables and spiritual truth and his truth and, his truth, his things, and it all goes out the door. It's like it's protected, it's guarded. I don't have a different way of saying that. I don't think that's the best I could say it. It's protected and guarded. Those who seek it will find it. Those who don't seek it, you'll know them that they're false because they don't actually seek truth. And somebody that doesn't seek truth from the heart doesn't mean we have all things and are perfect. But they're seeking truth, they're growing, they're correcting, they're, unlearning things, living it. Then you know that they seek the Father's will and truth. But those that are just like with a little discernment on a couple few doctrines, because the teachings are important. Beware of the doctrine of the Pharisees, the leaven. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. Now, I wanted to do like a little study before, and I have for a while, but I'd have to read all of the New Testament, which is not a problem, but then writing them all down, because you can't just Google this, I don't think, because this is very specific. Like every single time the disciples didn't understand Messiah, I would love to read all those verses and make a connection. Every single time the Pharisees did not understand the Messiah because they were carnal and took it carnally or literally, it's kind of the same thing. Thinking flesh, very carnal. It would be nice to have all of those verses and read them all and go through them a little bit. One of them, for example, is just a simple statement: beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, to his disciples. And there's some humor in these things, He's got some spiritual humor, because the disciples said, is he hungry? Poor, I add a little bit. This is how the mindset of people are. So I'm not like adding officially to the word. I don't do that. But just to like bring out a point, like they said, is he hungry? Does he need bread? So like it's almost like they were, oh, poor Messiah, poor Yahushua. Some say Yeshua. He needs help. He needs bread. He might be hungry, and all he did was repeat the phrase. But when the tone and repeating it signified, and they saw their error, because he didn't give them the answer still straight up. He just said, once again, what do you think I'm talking about bread? Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. Just repeats it again, as far as I know, exactly the same. Then they comprehended and knew that this wasn't talking about bread, but about the doctrine of the Pharisees, the teaching. There's so many examples like this of the Pharisees and disciples. I just from memory, but I've never written them all down like with that purpose. But this is how carnal, it's an example of taking something carnal and understanding it carnal, which leads to, it has no benefit. And if anything, it could be hurtful. It could be a damnable doctrine that you turn it into, is what I'm saying. That's how you get doctrines of demons so many times, from not blaming the disciples. They were just learning. They were called out, but they just didn't receive the Spirit yet, and they were learning and stuff, growing. His teachings weren't sunk in just yet on a spiritual level. And he said, when you're converted, feed my sheep, right? So he wasn't converted yet, you know? He wasn't converted yet. There's something that happens, and it's real. It happens. This is the difference between a true believer and one that just isn't converted yet. The people who are not converted yet, they are kind of just, they're left as like a shell, empty, like just religious. That's it. They could do physical things and understand some physical things, play the part and look good. But the disciples were, they were still carnal. Messiah was the only one that I believe that was like that first time on the earth. That's why it was special, a special time, and he is special still, because it's my belief he's still the only one that's who he is, perfect, and glorified. I don't believe anybody else is. CC will do the most amount of problem solvers. We need a network, think tank, and leadership. You're welcome, and everyone is wasting their time. Two Kingdom, CC, and the Black Sun Cult Masons. Yeah, so spiritual understanding, when you don't have that, you're going to be like the Pharisees or early disciples before they were converted, still carnal. So that kingdom sort of, this is something that I just believe I was given to be able to see and say. You can put a 6 over it, but the kingdom of heaven and who we are now should be a 7, spiritual, above the carnality, the earthiness of Adam, and carnal and natural and beast-like. But then 8 is the new creation, the actual thing, the full thing, because 6, man was made on day 6. He needs to rest and become 7 and rest from his works and have the righteousness of the Father working in him and Messiah working in him. It's his works working in you. So the Sabbath, with the spiritual understanding of the Sabbath rest, resting from your works, this is day 7, and then day 8 is the new creation, the real thing. It's just a down payment. And 8, they were circumcised on day 8. The Hebrews were circumcised on day 8. And there were 8 survivors on the ark. And afterwards, a new creation, a new world, if you will, a type of the new. Not the actual thing, but a type. So 8 is the new creation. 7 is right now being converted, becoming spiritual, changing, keeping his commandments in this way. And then 6 before that was like sort of the carnal representation of a kingdom and his way on the physical sort of side of things with the commandments and the kingdom, the wars, the enemies, the fightings and stuff like this. So we're not exactly in that time. We're not like that time. And so the penalty is death, but it's not the same because Messiah came to change and take away. He paid the penalty for death. And I don't believe that anyone could ever get stoned again for, to physical death, because he paid that. But there is a spiritual judgment, a spiritual death, now and in the age to come, and spiritual life, eternal life, rewards now and in the age to come. So these things are very much, there's a spiritual meaning, spiritual kingdom, war. It's not that these things are not real. And people like to say, I spiritualize away everything. It's like just the opposite. Spiritualize it to you, in you, not away, not throwing it away, bringing it to you, to yourself, to others. So then that's my understanding of 6, 7, and 8, 6, 7, 8. And then this is maybe a little silly, but one day I just, what does those numbers add up to? And it's 21. And then if you add 2 plus 1, you're back to 3 again. But there's something significant about 6, 7, and 8. 6 is the carnal man, 7 is the spiritual man, 8 is the glorified man, new creation, the true circumcision, and putting off of the body of sin and death to the fullness. That's day 8 when someone's truly circumcised. So that's my understanding of that. Let's see, I got some. I mentioned divide. That is what the trolls are online to do. CC is here to unite. Please remember that he came as the lamb, but returns as the lion. The lion Ryan, not meek, bold. Yep, he's not going to be stepped on or killed, it's going to be dashing the nations with the rod of iron, a judgment, correction, reproof. But before that, I think it's not, it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be a mad world up to his coming, full of, it already is, full of delusion and lies and illusion and deception. But there are people out there that they don't really focus on the spiritual side of it, some of these things, or hardly at all, but they really focus on physical only, It's when someone's only focusing on that, that's not good. It's like, why aren't they bringing up anything of the heart and the mind, the breaking of these things in your mind and heart? So there's people out there that make, they make a big stink about the commandments, and they just teach like sort of the carnal way to keep them. Like in the flesh keep them, but that's not his calling is much higher than that. It's to keep these things spiritually too. And so then you won't need to keep it physically, because you won't, if you don't even lust, you're not going to ever commit a physical adultery. If you don't even hate someone, you're never going to murder them. If you honor your father and mother, you're never going to be brutal or hate them or be cruel to them. If you don't even think about stealing and hate stealing in your mind, you're never going to physically steal. And if you don't have idolatry, if you even got that cleaned up, and you don't have constant just idolatry, then you're not going to worship the man or worship any physical thing or have something become your idol. But that's a spiritual understanding of the idolatry is pretty important, because people are going to say, yeah, we don't bow down to like a tree or to a golden calf, but you can still have an idol just as easily in your life without doing that physically. And there's connection to these things, if they weren't connected to it some way, then how come they can't get rid of certain things? Christmas, it's the pagan day. So why take part and acknowledge a pagan, profane thing? you know, they say they don't have any connection. They're not worshiping any Santa Claus or something, you know, or their tree, but then they can't get rid of it either. What is that? They got to have it every year. It's become a law for them, commandment for them. Trying to make you man up like a warrior, playing the role of his return. Spread the revelation that the Father is the innermost in concave earth and that we all must be born again. There's only one agenda or plan for the kingdom. I know you're passionate about the concave earth, Christian concave earth, but I think somewhere here you said if we're not doing otherwise, we're wasting time. I'm not seeing that now. People need to acknowledge truth, leadership, authority, the mission, and power and unity. You know, I don't know you know, how to really answer that, because I don't know that, you know, we're going to dominate the world. Concave is the truth, brother, without a doubt. I'm just only doing whatever he leads me to do in my life, you know. And most people are in this world, they have their own way already and they're set, and they're not going to listen or change, or, you know, some people do, the few do, but most they just don't. They're just not given the desire, the understanding. They just don't have it. So I'm not, you know, sure I see it exactly like you do, because even though it's a major truth that they lie about what the earth is, you know, I just yeah, I have no problem saying spinning globe is not true, but to make it all about like the kingdom is the concave earth, or, you know, whatever someone believes, I don't, you know, I don't know of any scripture that says that, teaches that, makes it that. There's some other things too I could say, but it's the CC true gospel. See, but technically it's not the gospel though. You know, like the earth itself is not the gospel. Messiah didn't go around saying that the earth is, you know, the gospel. I'm not saying it's not an important truth, but I, you know, people aren't gonna do anything about it. They can't, like, to actually do some kind of proof, and let's all prove it. I can't, you know, I could believe that, but I can't fully prove it, exactly what it is. But, you know, I could believe it could be, or whatever's, you know, but yeah, I just, the focus is, the focus for me is just, you know, how to truly live. But that's like the main focus. That's how you live, what you do is determining, who you are and inheriting the kingdom. I could tag along. They're lying to us about the earth. I don't have a problem with that. But it's not all by itself. I don't. There's just so many problems on the actual earth, and I'm in a spiritual war, but I'm not gonna like physically go up against the elite and expect to win. Draw up a sword, but it's a spiritual war. Try to wake people up to the truth, the gospel, the true narrow way to live. Concave truth revelation is a weapon of the war. The enemy are using it, like CCR. What's the I don't want to be negative. I just don't. Where is it going to go though? And the last thing I don't want to become is exactly what I've been against for so long. To become my own religion and system and all of this, But I'm for spreading the truth however you see fit on the internet, real life, for people, Facebook, if you have that, I don't, for me, just exposing the globe lie is pretty good, that it's not spinning and moving and it's local, stationary. The creator, there's not much I could say, the Father, like, look, there he is, I just don't have it in me to make like a comment, I just don't. Someone else could maybe do that. I just can't do it. I can't say the creator is like, there he is, right there. I just think he's too great, too powerful. I just don't know, I know his spirit, he's everywhere, he's close to all of us. But I know you say he's in the innermost, but and that's like, I'm assuming in the Gospel of Philip, that's speaking about yourself, at least, like within, but not a direct connection to concave, like physical. He's in the innermost, isn't he talking about within yourself? But I don't have a problem with saying, because it lines up with other truth, the Father is in the innermost. He's within the believer. But I've just never taken well with some of these other gospel accounts, I see some serious issues in pretty much all of them, and I just can't take it seriously. There's certain things that's going to be lining up with truth that I could agree with, but besides that, you're saying that he's not saying not within, but it's actually speaking of creation. You sure? Not talking about within you, not within. Oh, I was pretty much running out of steam here. I'm getting pretty tired, and I wanted to make this one shorter, but It's already pretty long. But you can feel free to leave a comment, however long you see fit. And I'll check it out, but I'm getting, I could barely even like speak right now. I shouldn't have maybe even made, well, I'm not going to say I shouldn't have made a video, but this video was about division and asking the Father for truth, in all things, and not instantly dividing. But whoever's watching this, you can write a comment and think, what's your thoughts? Is that who his people are, to create like I don't know, some kind of dominant force to take down the elite and the government? The reference regarding the Most High then goes on to talk about the other outer darkness. Well, I think that's all I got right now. Jesus said to Philip, it's better to say the innermost. They call them the Gnostic Gospels because they focused on like a certain teaching. It's like unique, not like in a good way, but it's like, the Gnostic has its own teaching that those books all have. I don't believe in that Gnostic stuff. I'm getting tired, so I'm trying to think of examples of what they say, some of the things they say, but there's some major contradictions in there, these other books that came later, I just don't, I've never believed that our Creator's hiding books that are true, like this is a true book, gospel or prophet, and it was hidden for 2,000 years. I don't see the actual evidence for that, and all of these other things contradict. People have a problem. Some people have a problem with that. Let's read all this and know it, brothers. Think bye for now. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Take care, CC. King of Truth, or Samuel. I know me and him, we see things a little bit differently, but Creator isn't hiding. The Council of Nicaea hid it. We'd have hidden books and changed books. Yeah, I've looked into those things. After a bunch of contradictions can be proven, it's what's there left to say about those books, they're pretty easy to see and prove. Some of them are pretty radical teachings too. And they center on you as God yourself. It's like the same New Age teaching. It's pretty similar. But like the Gnostics, those books teach that you are. It's deceptive because there's some truth in it. Father is in you, the Spirit, if you're a believer. But they literally teach you're God. Yeah, I accept Paul without question and reject Holy Scripture that simply weren't put in canon. Well, that would be like if somebody found, let's just say, somebody had a bunch of books from all kinds of topics, all kinds of books, even cookie books, and they got found 100 years later from now. They found a bunch of, all the books that they found. I don't see how they could use that as there was all kinds of things that they found. Dead Sea Scrolls and stuff, there were always all kinds of books and other people's teachings, and but I've read part of the Gospel of Thomas to see for myself what it is, and there's just some major heresy in it. Major heresy, major contradiction. Same with the Book of Enoch. You're older than me and my leader. There was 80, they removed 14 to make 66. I think you're talking about the Apocrypha there. But like the Book of Enoch is something, that's something else though. And the Apocrypha may be helpful. It doesn't teach anything new. But I don't see them as the same level of being inspired either. But they're, they add some history, I guess, some things. There's some questionable teachings in them too, because I don't believe any true prophet existed while those books were written. There was a period of no true prophets before the Messiah for like 300-400 years, and that's when a lot of these books were written. And I think even some of them in the Apocrypha admit that there's no prophet during their current time. They just flat out say it, I'm pretty sure. So they could have been believers or corrupt fake believers, but some of them probably were believers that, maybe wrote some of these. But I have my view on that, and I've seen the Book of Enoch. I have it in one of these books, and there's just, when I see a major contradiction, then that book, the whole book, is not inspired to me at all. But there's not just one major contradiction, there's just so many in that Book of Enoch. I can't take any of it seriously, even though some of it, some of it's going to be true or lining up with Scripture. But 4,500 foot tall giants and half birds and half human. I mean, I'm pretty confident these are the myths that we were warned of, the Jewish myths, fables and wives' tales, But I know I'm in the minority, and I accept that. It's all right. I'm in the vast minority on those books, on the Book of Enoch. And if Messiah returned to gather 10,000 warriors to help with the kingdom campaign, would you join him? Then do it for me. Bye for now. I don't, there's certain things I just can't, like, say what's going to happen, how it's all going to go down and happen in detail, I believe what the scriptures say, that will be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. And it's not going to be like, come join my campaign. It's just going to be boom, That's how I understand it. Just, if you were a true believer, then you're going to reign with him, restore the order. So I don't even believe he's going to come back and like ask for people to come to his, campaign. I'm not seeing that. You're doing okay, but be willing to open to manipulation or imperfection of the 66. KJV, bro, you're not fully right yet. Be open to truth and change. You need to look into prophecy and not focus on Paul. I don't focus on Paul. Like, that's not what I think about during the whole day. But I know he wasn't a false believer, so the Spirit's telling me over and over again, and there's no verse in there that shows me he was false. I know there's a lot of false people. Almost everyone needs to be questioned. The people that tell you they have truth, they themselves don't pray or seek truth from the Father, but they learned it from a book or from some man. That secret knowledge, hidden knowledge that the Father hid. But I know you say they hid it. I understand that they hid it for 2,000 years, and now we have it more recently and found them. But there's no these books are totally off. They're off. Every single legitimate book in the Bible has prophecy concerning Messiah. The Apocrypha didn't. The Book of Enoch, no new prophecy. If there's any prophecy in the Book of Enoch, it's a direct quote from Scripture, pretty much. It's something that already exists in Isaiah or other prophets, but people are so unfamiliar with the Scriptures, they think they're reading new prophecy in the Book of Enoch, when it's just written down slightly different. But it's like a direct quote from Scriptures written down slightly different. Enoch, I've done the videos on it, and everything I said is true. I didn't make up anything. He literally says he's the Redeemer. He's pretty much God himself, and he's everyone's righteousness in the tribulation. Enoch will make everyone righteous. Angels atone for sins. All these things, and he subdued angels, and they were trembling and shaking in fear, bowing down to Enoch the man, and he dished out judgments, and they were trembling. I know what's going on. You could say I don't see it or I don't see the truth, but I know what's going on. Whoever wrote that book was a serious prideful person, that's all, who badly wanted their own books, the devil's books, to be the truth and confuse people. Yeah, I know everyone makes that claim. Jude quotes from Enoch, and it's not even a direct quote. There's like one word that's completely, totally different in Jude than in the Book of Enoch, and he never mentions a book, but he's directly saying Enoch, the one before the flood. But there is no quote, the Book of Enoch says this or that. It just, the Enoch of Genesis is what he's talking about. How come no one says he's not quoting from the Enoch in Genesis? And that they likely had oral, things passed down, or maybe they had something that they had with them in writing. Who's to say? I can't say for sure, but the writer of that book, it's pretty easy to prove it wasn't Enoch who wrote it. It's pretty easy to prove that just based on the writings, they were definitely written after the Old Testament was already complete. Somewhere in that Apocrypha time. So, but I have only had severe pushback on not believing in those books, but he just won't allow me to. I have it, I could read it, I've read a lot of it, but I'm not getting it, man, in the spirit that these are true books at all. Moses wrote Genesis and had not had any access to any scriptures before he wrote those other 5 books. You could make that claim, I can't. I don't know what Moses had or didn't have. Could be that every bit of it was revelation, I suppose. I don't know for sure. I know that they had scrolls before Moses, but I don't go off on like stuff where I just don't know for sure. I'm just okay with saying I don't know exactly how it all came to be, but in details. Yeah, orally. Yeah, I think they did that a lot before. They memorized these things and taught them orally. The commandments, that's what must have happened during that whole time from Adam to Moses. I just, it's like I could make a Facebook thing and just join, but I'm not seeing some kind of like physical domination. I don't know what the end goal of it is, I just want people to believe truth and actually live it, because that's the only way you inherit the kingdom. It's not based on what somebody else says. Like, I'm never going to give a prerequisite on what it means to inherit the kingdom to somebody else, to those watching this channel. Like, if you don't do what I say and tell you, you can't inherit the kingdom. If I had that on paper somewhere, I'd burn it. But I can't do that. Rule people like that with an iron fist, like give them prereqs. Like if you don't join me, you're false. You can't inherit the kingdom and you're wasting time. And I don't see that. I'm not seeing it. This is spiritual war. You see me as aggressive, but it's spiritual, not physical. Yeah, I agree. It's spiritual war. Just, what are the details? What do you want to like accomplish specifically? With, besides like truth about concave earth, which, like I said, I just, I'm convinced it's not a spinning globe. I'm not convinced about too much more. You've only just found all this, but you have the info. I knew about concave earth for a little while now. Flat earth since everyone else did, 2015. And I was given the gift of faith in the summer of 2013, over 7 years ago. So I didn't just find this, but maybe you're speaking of concave earth, which would have been, I don't know, 2 years ago that I heard of it or looked into it a tiny bit. But then more recently, within the last year. about a year ago, I looked into it more, and I don't have anything to offer people. You could say, yeah, check this, check that, look for yourself, but I don't have anything scripture, to specifically prove that. So I'm not arguing against it. I think I have my own, whatever the Spirit's telling me to do concerning the kingdom. But I can't make that like the most important thing, and I definitely don't want to start a group name that's unique and different like everyone else does. It's not like I'm against what you want to do, but some of the ideas of it becomes just like what everyone else is doing. Then they label you, they say this is the group, and then there'll be different thoughts, or people will have problem in said group. Then they focus on the people in the group, tell the whole world who they are based on these few people, and then throw the whole group down as false or another division. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's become another denomination almost, if not exactly that. I definitely have a different view on the kingdom, I think, than you. I'm okay with saying that. I think it's true. Because for the kingdom, we're servants. We're not like dominators. And they killed the Messiah, and he didn't go and, spread the truth, spread the good news, do whatever the Father's telling you, but they didn't create a name for themselves, and, their intention wasn't to like take over the government or something. I'm not saying that's what you want to do. I'm just saying, Yeah, I agree. Most denominations are, most of them are not of the truth. But see, I can't even talk like what you're doing there. Does everyone see this chat? I think so, right? Everyone could see. I lead, dominate, you don't, so serve. There is one kingdom, and Jesus returns to war and create the millennial kingdom. I've got the ball rolling. There's certain things that you say that I could never say. Like, even if they don't mean what the words say, I still couldn't say it. I wouldn't even want someone to even think that's what I mean. I mean, I could put a vote for it. I wouldn't be against putting, here's my one support. It's just that I'm not going to go like around the streets and just talk about concave earth as the primary thing when there's so much more important things to talk about. But yeah, I'm not the leader. I'm not claiming to be a leader of anything. I'm just seeking truth and freely giving, with whatever's been given me to the best of my ability. I see my understanding of a shepherd, a pastor, a true one, is that they lead people to the Father, maybe feed him for a season, and then you could feed yourself now, or just for the sake of fellowship, just for the sake of that, not even necessarily to get someone closer to the Father. They might, but uh, there is no ruling in some like kind of dominating form, because with his disciples, it's not so that it would be like that. The Gentiles rule and they lord it over or rule it over other people the way they do, the way the world does it. He says, for you, my disciples, it shall not be so. It's not going to look like that or be like that. If it does look like that and it starts becoming that, it's false. It's no good. We are at war with elite and trolls. You got to alert people to the revelation of Father. You could lead America for CC if you simply agree and work. I'm leading you to all truth. But you and the world, you could help, but you need to embrace. I think it's actually scary, because the last days prophecy, it's not just like spiritual where there's false shepherds, that spiritual understanding of like, I'm Messiah, I'm the truth, I'm the shepherd, you can only go through me to get to the Father, that like so much of the world is one-way street with the pastors. The scary thing is that I think there's actually a growing number, and will continue to grow, where people just forget it. I am the Christ, I am the Messiah. Like, it's actually literal too. It's gonna become like that, worse and worse. If Jesus is not me, then when he comes, he will take over and lead. Man, I care about you, but there's some things you say that I just cannot ever say. Like, you're even contemplating that you still could be the Messiah. You're not sure yet, but you could be. You're not the Messiah, that's for sure. Are you a true believer? That's not what I'm saying. That's not even the point. But like the Messiah, the actual Messiah of the scriptures. Nobody is that on earth right now. He hasn't come. Nobody's no Messiah. That's what Lord Stephen Christ did. And I know you said you called him out, but he claimed that he was the Messiah, and he started teaching all kinds of crazy things. Like, oh, your understanding of Messiah is not right. And he's just started making up a bunch of stuff where I know right away the scriptures, he's contradicting scriptures and just making stuff up, and people believed him. Few did. He's not what you think. He's evil. Look at all the evil. I'm going to solve the evil. A Messiah, a true Father and Messiah, couldn't do that. That must be the devil. They're the devil. I will take care of the world and annihilate evil. They can't do that. They can't allow evil to be. That's their trap, and that's their line. That they got something better coming right now, physical, material, and the true creator, and the so-called Messiah that he speaks of as false doesn't exist. You don't have the right understanding, he told people. I'm the Messiah because I will take care of evil and all these things. But this is the way it has to be, though. It's not that the Father's evil by allowing all this to happen. That's very spiritually immature, what that other guy said, LSC. Very spiritually immature, and even that's blasphemy to say such a thing, that they're evil. The whole purpose is to overcome evil. Father created evil for a purpose, the knowledge of it and everything. Here's a tree, don't eat from it. Everything else is good. It's like leaving an open cookie jar to a kid and saying, don't eat. What do you think is going to happen? You know, it just had to happen. In order to become in his image, you have to know and discern between good and evil. That's like the number one basic step. Knowledge of knowing what's evil and good. If you don't know that, you're not in his image. So I have a whole completely different understanding of in his image. Because if somebody says, I'm in the Father's image, how much did you sin all your life? Well, I guess a lot. And if the commandments are the truth, then a ton. So that's who the Father is. You're the splitting image, but you sin. If Messiah was perfect, or if Adam was perfect, then what was Messiah? More perfecter? Like the Messiah is the express image of the Father spiritually, like to see him, who he is, truth, how he acts, what he believes, what his heart is like. This is the same spirit, but Adam failed. And it's not to put blame on him, it's just that it's true. He failed. He's even called a type of Messiah. So if all went well, it could have kept going, I guess, but that was never the true purpose. The purpose was ultimately to have a fall, you know, and you can theorize about what would happen if he never ate from the truth, but it's kind of vain to do that because it never happened, never will happen. You can't undo it. You know, that's like, well, if Sodom and Gomorrah repented, they would still be standing. That's nice. You could talk about what would happen, what they would be now, but it didn't happen. You know, concerning groups and things like this, I've seen a lot of problems and divisions. I don't have a whole lot of experience with like an assembly of believers besides growing up in the church and a denomination besides that. But I know the corruption, and I see when it's coming. If there was a group of believers and I examined them for just a few minutes or an hour or a couple days, a little bit here and there, you know, I would be able to see pretty quickly what's going on, and you should too, whether that group's going to get in some kind of division or not, because it's like a fight for power every time, and that's what divides everything. They always want to have somebody that leads and is the king and the ruler of the assembly. But the Messiah got down on his knees and washed his disciples' feet. How on earth is that gonna work? I hear what you're saying, Samuel. I hear it, and you're obviously passionate about this one specific thing very much. So very passionate about concave earth, you know. You know, I'm trying to give you my understanding in some scriptures on assemblies and how it's done. That as soon as you have some kind of like iron fist kind of leader type thing, that it's no good. It's going against his truth. It's not to say that there can't be somebody that acts as a pastor or something, but it's not even remotely a one-way street like they have it in the church world, where you can't say anything while the pastor is talking, right? And you could never tell him, this is not good what you're teaching. This is not true. You can't do that without being thrown out, or deemed as apostate, a heretic. And people have those testimonies where they genuinely thought they were close with this body, and then their Father revealed things to them, revealed to them that a Trinity is not true, and then they told their pastor and told people, and then next thing you know, they get excommunicated and they go into tears because they actually believed that they were all their brothers and stuff, and then they deemed them as heretics because of a revelation they received. And that's just one example. It's just one example. It's not, by means of the whole entire. So there are people that I didn't come out like that. I was just moved before I even became an official member to not become an official member, because now I'm one and signed like almost a contract, like, here, this is who I am. You could see it right here. Here's the name. Here's what we believe. It's very outwardly. It's not focusing on the kingdom. It's focusing on the outward and religion and like the physical manifestation of, things that aren't very important to me at all, that are even could be damaging when you focus so much on that. I think it's so corrupt that people have a different, someone says bishop, which means an overseer, just to oversee, look over. I just see that as someone that has a very high care, responsibility to help, serve. But when someone says bishop today, they have like the Catholic Church view of these things, and it's all perverted and twisted. That's just the way I see it. It's not how it was in the beginning during Messiah's time. It's not how they were doing things and acting and ruling with an iron fist. And you can see it. You can see it in the writings that they never acted or behaved like that. They might have somebody that's more knowledgeable, on truth, is able to guide, is able to teach, but that doesn't mean that they become some kind of God now, some kind of lifetime membership, one-way street. You can never speak to me, but I only could tell you truth kind of deal. I've been told that over and over in the spirit that that's not true, that's false. He will rule them with a rod of iron. I will until he gets here. Like you, bro, love your heart, but man up. Everyone is in a war, and Concave would help everyone. I lead for the kingdom, so I'm focused on converting Muslims to CC. I don't, even the connection with the elite, CC. You said it has nothing to do with 33, but it just like, it even looks like it, though, on a carnal level, just at first glance. I just, I hope your intentions are true, that it has nothing to do with like dominating and creating a name for yourself, but because that's what most people want to do. I have no problem saying like the elite or the enemy and stuff, but I, maybe you have a different purpose, a role in the kingdom than I do, because you know. Who's a new name for us? Christian and concave begin with C. Right, yeah, I get that. Christian concave. Even with the word Christian, man, it's so far from the truth that it's like, it's not even Christian, really. And they didn't call themselves Christians. Other people, the pagans, called them Christian or something once or twice. I guess then later that stuck somehow, especially during Constantine's time and forward is when that name became big, I think. But you know, like the Messiah was not a Christian by any stretch. Like what people think today is, you know, it's actually almost silly to say that. I don't hate that word. It has so much connected to it that it's like I don't need it. Um, that name, you know, so much connected to it that I don't like. His people they don't have like titles and groups name and stuff like this, you know. Like even the first assemblies, they were just named by their location. They weren't like denominations. They were all supposed to be one. But you know, the devil has done a lot of work since then. Now we got so many divisions. And they're trying to bring it back together. One world religion government sort of deal. That's going to happen no matter what, up to a certain point. No matter what you do, no matter what I do. Hopefully you could see that. Spread the truth, spread the gospel, the good news, but like regardless of what anyone does, you can't outdo his prophecies though. Like if he says something's happening, it's going to happen. And really, I know with the world's perspective and denominations and leaders and powerful rulers, they say, well, you're a weak loser, man. You've caved into the elite, you know. You're letting them step on you. You're not going out there and shouting and going on rallies and stuff. And yeah, I throw my hands up and you call me a loser, call me weak, whatever. It's fine. Messiah was that too, I suppose, so call him that too, and all his disciples. And they all died and got killed. Pretty much all of them were martyred, from most people's understanding on that. They certainly didn't fight back with a sword, did they? Or return evil for evil. So I can't start something that I can't even finish, you know? Just gospel of the kingdom with correct creation model, and Father is the innermost. Yeah, unity. We need unity, sure. But man, I'm just not, it just doesn't exist. Hardly. The true body are scattered. It will never be gathered together legitimately until that day. Till that day, it's always going to be scattered with just a couple few here, a couple few there, and the 1,000 people congregations and 500 clubs. They will continue to be the thing, the main thing, the truth that they, you know. But as soon as true people try to get together, man, do they get attacked from every angle. and get separated and divided, and the Father separates you even more from the world, more and more and more. His people just don't even have a, that's not what that is right now. It's not what it is. Destroy your soul, lose your life is like the exact opposite of going out and dominating and creating a name for yourself. And it's not to not spread truth. That's not my point. Just his kingdom is not, that's not what it is, though. American CC leader, if you agree and want the role. It just, I don't know what would I do for the nation. Gospel of the kingdom with correct creation model, and Father is the innermost. I know there's already a little division with what we believe, other books and stuff. Just so divided. Looking for trustworthy, dedicated people with a humble, obedient, reliable heart. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you. I tried to say it the best I could without being, explaining some of it, without being like too aggressive or blunt. Sometimes you have to be blunt. I'm not just, it's not like I could put a vote for you and whatever, but I like to lead some kind of nation about this, If the Spirit was telling me I should do that, then I know he would be telling me I should do that. But that's who I am, though. I don't do anything unless I'm moved by the Spirit to do it. If I'm not being moved, then I don't know what to tell you, I don't rely on myself, but nobody believes me, though. Hardly. It's not my choice or opinion. It's not my choice to be single for 10 years and stay away from women completely, utterly. It's not my choice. Who would do that? Who would do that, Yeah, if you were like 70 going to 80, but not the prime years of your life. 22 to 32. No women, zero. That's not my choice. But hopefully you can even remotely begin to hear or see or understand that. So if it's not a strong calling to do something, it's just, that's what it is. It takes from the world's perspective, a special somebody to do that, because people, and I'm not blasting people that are in marriage or relationship by any means. It's just that people can't comprehend any other way because it's not given to them. I got told no so many times, it was just to the point where the question didn't even exist anymore. It's just obvious to me. Unless something changes in the future, it's not happening. I know what's going to happen. And I know that woman's going to take me away from the truth. I know it. She would have to be such a spiritual person for it to ever work. And I don't even pray for that. I'm not even inspired to pray for that. But that's my life. That's my situation. I'm okay with it. Yeah, okay. Well, thanks for your comments. I'm never going to rule over people, if that's some kind of answer for you, like with some kind of iron fist, or even I'm just not going to rule over them, period. Like, I'm not going to tell them what to do constantly. And if you notice now, I'm the only one making videos on this channel. It used to be two of us. Can you guess what happened? Can you guess what happened? Didn't like it. Wasn't my will. I was angry about it. Why are you doing this? Why are you still dividing? So much in common, so much truth, seeing everything eye to eye pretty much, and yet, control. Control. It's not good. Try to control everything. Very controlling. Very controlling. Every detail, every minute. Become somebody's slave. Shouldn't feel like I'm in slavery in the body of the Messiah. If I feel like I'm in slavery, that's messed up. It's no good. You know, do everything I do when I do, and say when I say, and my way or the highway kind of thing, you know, and then denying it. Deny every little bit of it. Whatever concern I had, pure denial, total denial. It's either, well, I must be blind then. I must be the most spiritually blind person ever. I don't know what discernment is. I don't know what control is. I don't know what something that's not good is. And I love the guy. It's just maybe something will change in the future, but right now, you know, I don't go into crazy details, but it was for what we're talking about here, control. And that's not me. I don't control people. Mason set me up with a woman. I thought you were single. I guess I didn't know. I don't know. Shouldn't have assumed anything. The Mason set you up. So, yeah, I don't want to become like another denomination with a name, you know, with like a here's who we are and this is what we're doing. It's just going to be divided anyways. There's 30,000 other ones to choose from within. Maybe not literally 30,000, but there's thousands. And not counting all the other religions and ideas and philosophy and atheists and everything, you add it all up, it's thousands and thousands of divisions, you know. And someone's going to look at it the same way they do all the other thousands, you know. They'll go on with their own life, and that's why it's so focused on self. And when you do speak to others, it's about them to realize who, you know, what sin is, and work for them, you know, to work on these things, change. It's a process. That's what the kingdom now is not, you know, that's for later. That's for later. If the role gets flipped over, the table gets flipped over, those who are prideful will become humbled. But those who are humbled in this life will be exalted in a good way, because they won't be corrupt anymore. So then it's not like a mission to conquer people and territory and stuff. It's just do whatever the Father is telling you concerning the kingdom, your own life, how to deal with other people, how to get to other people, reach other people, you know, because man, there has to be so much understanding for there even to be any kind of unity. And there seems like time's running out for that, for It's like, if you're going to be a true believer, you better become a believer now, because nobody's refined in 1 year or in 6 months. That was not me anyways. That wasn't my case, but you would have to do like double overtime, man. Like speed up the process, maybe give you like all your disasters and problems within a 7-year period instead of 40. But I guess they say a marriage is a lot to keep intact, you know, but apparently it's true for even believers with their own assembly. I guess it takes a lot to keep that intact too. And if in doubt, then how the Messiah lived is the answer. Sure, he had people that he spoke to, crowds, but notice that he never became some kind of like ruler over them, like lifetime ruler now, and that's it, you know, I'm ruling over you and that's it. He just went around and taught the gospel of the kingdom, and taught his disciples. And you know that he was a true the teacher, but he washed the disciples' feet, which is degrading for, you know, people that are prideful. Like, you know, they couldn't do that, like even spiritually. That's a pastor like takes care of. Just make sure the sheep are where they should be, you know, not going out crazy. Narrow gate. But when somebody becomes more mature, they don't need to be guided, or, you know, like they were in the beginning, maybe by somebody helping them, leading them to truth, you know. It shouldn't be that they need to be fed milk the rest of their life. It shouldn't be like that. They should be able to, you know, start discerning things and understanding these things and living them, asking the Father on their own. You know, not to say that a group isn't needed. It's just see it as something completely different, because I believe it was completely different than how it is so often now. I'm gonna end the video now, but I had like no intentions of it being this long. I just wanted to make a quick point about division, that people shouldn't just instantly divide, but like seek truth. But nobody is doing that, hardly, save a few. They just divide right away, and they don't ask the Father for truth or understanding or correction or anything. Okay, guys, that's it. Yeah, bye for now. Peace. Sorry if I couldn't maybe say what you wanted me to say, or answer exactly how you thought it should be, but you know, there's certain things I'm just not, can't do, can't say. Definitely to have no desire to rule people, you know, like control their moves and stuff like this. It's more of a guide at the most, like just helpful if needed, when needed. It's not like some kind of lifetime position, like this is who and what you are. Ryan could be a shepherd tomorrow. He could be something else to somebody else the next day. He's not one thing over these people, and then this is set for life and that's it, you know. It's nonsense. What, the other people in that group can't become spiritually mature and grow up spiritually? What's that? What kind of body isn't growing? Didn't Paul say you should be teachers by now? Some of you at least should be teachers, and you're repenting from dead works over again. See, so somebody shouldn't be ruling someone like all their life and like that's their position. Shouldn't be like that. It should be the point where eventually they could do whatever that shepherd is doing. They could do those things now. They could maybe say something, teach a little bit, somebody else. That's what the disciples were taught to do. You know, they were taught first, and then they grew up and learned these things, and then they were able to do the same thing the Messiah did. So that's it. Peace and take care. I really wish this video was shorter, but I guess it is what it is. But that's all I got now. Just always seek truth from the Father. It's like, it's the only, you can't get it unless you're truly seeking truth for any little thing or any one, discernment, understanding, spiritual things, sin, testing the spirits, see if they're of the truth. He can only do that through you. Otherwise, a carnal man will always make mistakes and get sucked in by false people. And that's it. Yeah, that's it. So take care. I have to wait a few seconds for this weird thing. If I end it, it like takes 10 seconds off or 8. So I have to wait a few seconds now.